if you want to drink the cleanest water on earth, first you have to find it. So, what are some of my tips for finding spring water? I found this spring over 10 years ago, and I followed the steps I'm going to show you right now that helped me find a spring, and it wasn't an easy process. It took me over a year and a half to find a spring that I could come to like this and drink out of. So, um, the internet obviously is going to be our number one easiest access to locate springs. So findaspring.com, that is a website I've used. This was not on findaspring.com. It should be updated now. So in your area, you can go to findaspring.com. They use a Google map overlay where people can add in their local springs. So when I travel to larger metropolitan areas, all over Canada, the States, I look on Find a Spring to see where I can stop to get good spring water. People can leave reviews, they can test it. So there's a wealth of knowledge there. So go check that out. There's a great resource. It's run by some good friends. They've done a lot of good work. So, second tip, ask your elders. That is the second tip, and that's how I found this spring. So I asked around, I asked um, people's grandparents, people wiser, older than me. What ended up happening was I found a lot of capped springs. So in our city, the city went through and capped a lot of these springs as they went through with their municipal water system. So they found these springs, they capped them because either maybe it was a nuisance or they were building something and it was in the way. So they just got destroyed and wiped out. And I remember vaguely visiting some of these springs with my grandparents when I was a young child. So as I went and hunted some of these spots down, I would find either municipal water sources or they've been capped off, they've been wiped out. So asking our elders is a great way to find potential spring sources because they might still remember accessing spring water before the municipal systems and the infrastructure was all set in. So this one I found from a friend who worked at a health food store who said she used to live in this area, described it to me, and I had to kind of just take the directions she had given me, uh, memorize them, and this left, that right, and took these vague directions, and I found it, and I've been coming ever since. So that tip was what got me to this spring. Secondly, chasing water sources. That's one that I tried for the year and a half until I found this source. So in my local area, there was a lot of deforestation. So I would uh, be hiking, bushwhacking, and I would find a water source, and I would just follow it up a mountain, upstream. I would keep following it to see if it was a potential spring. And then there's things I would look out for. I would check the temperature, depending on the time of year. In the summer, I'm looking for something very, very cold. This spring is about 4 degrees right here, but as it leaves, it'll probably warm up to, let's say, about 8 degrees Celsius. So very, very cold water, very clear. I'm looking at the taste. When I uh, decide I'm going to follow one of these springs. And I followed many springs. And what I found with my area was the deforestation. What it does is it exposes springs to elements that don't um, foster their growth. So this is kind of shaded, it's protected, and it's in a low spot. In the areas where I was, the deforestation was so bad, I would follow many of these springs up mountains and in like some amazing areas within the city limits where this deforestation happened. And what I'd come across is I would find the source of the spring and it would just be trickling, let's say at the top of a mountain, but not enough that I could go with large water vessels, jugs, different stuff to catch the water. There wasn't enough coming out to actually be able to efficiently make it my go-to water source like this one. So get out there, chase the water sources. If you find them in the forest, those little things you could look out for. Asking your elders, like I said, that one was a major one for me. Findaspring.com has always helped me when I'm on the road. I've stopped at, you know, no, I wouldn't say hundreds of springs, but we're getting up there. Every time I travel, I try to locate a spring that I can get fresh water from. I go out of my way because it's that important to me and my family to have clean, fresh water that is optimized for our human potential, which I believe spring water is. So I would take those 3 tips, try them out. If one doesn't work, move on to the next one. And sometimes you'll hit barriers and roadblocks, and it takes time. Find a spring's a great resource. You might find something on there in your local area right away, and you might not. And you might have to go ask your grandparents. Uh, Go to the local health food stores. Ask some of them. Maybe see if anyone in your area is collecting spring water. This is out in a rural area, so finding maybe some Mennonites or Amish, finding some individuals who are more in the country that would be closer to nature where they could help you find springs. Hunters and foragers often come across springs. I found many springs just out hiking, and then you just come across it. And some are great, but I prefer this water source, so I come here. So you might find some very fast. It might take you a year or a few years, but don't be discouraged. So get out there, try those 3 resources I gave you. Um, like I said, they worked for me, and I know they've worked for hundreds, if not thousands, of others.